the talk is about the 7 golden rules of selling. What is it that makes one person convert 8 out of 10 of the quotes that go on, and somebody else sell 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, or 5 out of 10? I've narrowed it down working with salespeople, double glazing salespeople for the last 20 years. I still go out selling today with the companies that I work with. I work with 7 companies, mainly down south. And I go out selling with them. They watch me, I watch them. In over 20 years, I've kind of identified what I think works for the customer. And it's not what you would expect as the norm. It's not about the gift of the gab. It's not about showing how great your sample is. It's not about how great you are at closing. The top performers do something that the customer likes. Customers love to buy. They just hate being sold to. So what is it that has customers feeling as if they're buying and feeling you're the one I want to buy off, and they don't feel the same with other people? You can do this face-to-face. You can do it on the telephone. Whichever way you're doing it, you can do it over 1 visit, 2 visits, 3 visits. It makes no difference. So what's the magic formula? Well, what I'd like to share with you is the story of the Fit Show Salesman of the Year competition that we did at the very first show. I talked about this on the Fact Find seminar that we did yesterday, but I'd like to go into a little bit more detail today about it. It was £10,000 to the winner. We had quite a few entrants, as you can imagine, for £10,000. We narrowed it down to the last 4. And the last 4 did their full presentation to customers in the house. And there were cameras all over the place watching them. We dissected it and made 5 10-minute videos, each video on 1 step of the sales process. And I was asking the customers what the feedback was. The guy that won it, what the customer said about him, it was actually Adrian, the chap in the middle. And the feedback was he wasn't interested in what he could get from us. He was interested in what was best for this house. And Adrian nailed all of the 7 golden rules. I say nailed them, he did them. There's slight improvements he could have made, which I'll share with you. So, what is golden rule number 1? The first golden rule is question, listen, and probe. At the Fit Show competition, what the customers wanted was the 2 windows at the back done, which were the living room and the back door. The windows were cold and drafty, and when she was sitting there, even in the winter, even with the heating on, it was really cold and drafty next to that window. She could feel the cold in the back of her neck. She actually used to wear a cardigan in the winter. Also, the worry about security, because next door was broken into through the same back door that they had, which was right off the living room. And on top of that, they had a soundproofing issue because they had 3 dogs at the back that used to kick off. And once one started, they all started. And they're watching the telly, and these dogs are giving it 10-0, basically. They also had a bit of a condensation problem on the windows. They wanted the windows done in 3 months' time because he was getting a bonus. They were staying in the house long term. They had no plans to move. They were there for life. They also wanted a price for the front windows, but they didn't know if they could afford it because the bonus wouldn't stretch to that. So they were thinking of ways to perhaps finance and get it all done at once. What they were asking the salesperson for was a quote for everything. But really, they thought they could only get the 2 windows and the door. Out of the 4 finalists, 2 of them didn't find out any of that information. They got sucked straight into design. We don't know whether to go for timber or PVC. We think we'll go for VS, but we might consider casement. Well, that was it. They were into their stories and into their thing. Never to recover and find out the good stuff. Finding out what they want and probing on it gives you the keys to their hearts, the keys to the sale. They feel heard, but they didn't do it. The 2 that did do a fact find, one kind of skimmed over it, but then started showing them something completely different to what they told him. Yeah. The other one that won it just nailed it. He got all the information, and then he tuned into that information. And because of that, they felt, you're the one. Let's hope the price is right. Now, you can create that every time. That shouldn't happen by accident. It should happen by design. And it happens basically by personally, I like to fill in a form. You can't see what's on that form, but if you tick on there, I'll send you a copy of it. There's my copy. Whoops. So I actually go out with my clipboard, my iPad, and from that I can just show them everything. And it makes sure I don't miss anything off. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not death by ticking. It only comes out for a very short time and just make sure I've covered all the relevant issues. Golden rule number 2, once you've done a thorough fact find and you found out exactly what they want, why they want it, what the hot buttons are, is to show all the design options and then show them the end result. Out of the 4 finalists, the one that came second was designing the wrong thing. He was actually designing what he wanted. If you go onto YouTube and watch the episodes, you'll see that's exactly what he was doing. I wouldn't go for a casement. I would go for a vertical slider here, and I would go for timber, not PVC. That'll suit, so he's dumping his thing on them. He was fishing with jelly and ice cream on the end of the hook, because that's what he likes. So, by design options, I mean even the details. So, for example, if they want astragal bars or Georgian bars, then personally I show them both. Even if Georgian bars I don't think would suit at all, I'll show them the difference. And I'll be ticking it off my little list. Which do you want? It reminds me to do it. I've got an iPad album for every single option on the forms. There's about 100 options, of course, because you've got 7 different products. Each product has its own little options, and each one has up to 30 photographs on the iPad, so I can show them in detail. Of course, I have hand samples if necessary, and I'd recommend you do the same. To customers, one customer said to me a couple of weeks ago, this is just like shopping. There was no selling or telling. It was just, right, here's your first option, here's your second option. Which of these do you prefer? And they tell you what they prefer. And quite often, what they prefer design-wise is different to what you would prefer necessarily. So the golden rule, if I can give you a tip, never recommend a design to a customer. Only show them the options and let them choose. So these are photographs I just took the other day. I like to go and photograph all my jobs before and after, and this was part of the after. So now in my album on furniture, I've got the monkey tail options. And there'll be 4 or 5 different options you might have of handle design and stay design. So you've got them photographed. And the customers love it because they go, oh, that looks gorgeous. Oh, I don't like that one. Oh, quote me for that one. And when you're getting that kind of rapport going with them, you know you're becoming the one. You're getting brownie points every single time. And there's a tipping point. There's a brownie point, tipping point. You get so far in it and they just think, oh, you're the one. No one's mentioned any of this. No one's shown us any of this. And it's all really relevant. Unless you've got 10,000 photographs, it's difficult to do. So you might want to start photographing. And that's the form there. It shows the design, the fact find questions to start with. Casement window design options, vertical sliding design options, and so on. Then show them the end result. I was doing a talk like this not long ago, and one of the I asked the question, does anybody take before and after photographs? And a young hand went up. Only been doing quotes for the last couple of years. He photographs all his jobs before and after. So he airdropped them to me, and this was one of them. That was the before photograph, and that's the after. Of course, the money shot is the internal. If you're photographing conservatories or windows, I like to do the internals. That's what customers go, wow, that looks beautiful. Outside, not that bothered about it. And then, of course, you can use simulation software. I either use simulation software or I hand draw what it's going to look like, and I always do 1 or 2 options. If it's a back door and they say, oh, just a mid-rail, please, no problem. But when it comes to designing it later, I'll draw a mid-rail, I'll put a bar down, I'll just show them a couple of options. I say, just to eliminate it, I'm not trying to persuade you to do something different. And very often they go, oh, I quite like that, actually. So show them the end result. Golden rule number 3, separate your steps. There are 5 steps in the sales process, whether you're conscious of them or whether you're not. First one is fact find and measure. Next one is show them the design options. Next step is find the right product specification to suit their needs. If security is important and they want to stop the cold coming off the back door, Then you're going to be showing them the security locks. You want to pick a heavy-duty door. You want to pick a certain type of glass, solar warming glass, so the inside pane warms up. More on that later. So, and then the fourth step is discuss the price options. And the fifth step is agree the next step. So you've got 5 steps. Now, the purpose of this golden rule is most people mix the first 3 steps together. So while they're measuring, they're also designing. Do you want this there? Do you want that there? What pattern glass do you want? What color this? So they're measuring, fact-finding, designing, and very often saying, oh, you want to go for this type of glass if that's the case, and also bringing the specification and upgrade into it. So you want to avoid that. Fact-find only in the first step, design in the second step, show product in the third step, but in a natural way. And if there's a bit of bleed, don't worry about it. Of course, when you're measuring, they're going to say, well, fancy a bar there and there. Bit of design creeps in, but just don't go on with it. Just say, no problem, and save the rest till later. Golden rule number 4, scratch only where they itch. So, as I mentioned before, in the competition, this guy who came second was scratching them in places that didn't itch. He's showing them the benefits of the product, and some of it wasn't relevant to them. Well, the customer might be thinking, well, we don't need all of that. And when you scratch exactly where they itch, they're absolutely listening. So if it's security, show them the security features. If it's condensation, show them the best ways to get rid of the condensation, the best type of sealed unit to put in, which is low iron on a soft coat, etc. We'll go into that. Even if that's all that you do, it's as if you're recommending it for the first time. Right, the type of glass you need, because of your condensation and because of your security, is A, B, C. Little tip here. When you're showing them the product specification, tell them what they need. Tell them the options and tell them which one they need. It's probably the only one you do. They might not know that. In design, tell them the options and ask them what their thoughts are. Never give them advice. In upgrade, always give them advice. Step 3. Yeah. 5, tell, show, and prove. What I mean by that is, in the fact find, you might say to them, let's say security is an issue, which it was with these customers in the competition, because next door had been broken into, by the way. They had the same door from the same company, so they wanted the back door changed. So you'd be telling the customer, well, look, in that case, we can go for an upgraded lock and strip. We can put a special glass in if you want, which you can't break. It's anti-shatter. It's hammer-proof, basically. Looks exactly the same as normal glass. It's not that much more expensive. And then later on, when it comes to the specification, you can then actually show them, prove it, and so on. And how you do that depends on the tools that you have. So tell, show, prove. In the competition, Adrian that won it, he told them the solutions, but he didn't actually show them, which is fine. He still won it. Still got the sale, still blew them away, but it's just going that extra mile when you're on the quest for perfection and say, oh, look, I'll actually show you. And they're going, oh, yeah, wow, look at that bit of laminated glass that you've already smashed, but it's held together and you can't even feel the cracks. And look at that low iron. Oh, it's clear instead of green. Yeah, that lets more heat in. And then the soft coat stops it coming in, so it warms the glass up. Oh, wow, no one's mentioned this before. And that's what we're doing, you see. Tell, show, and prove. Of course, it helps if you can tick. So down here at the bottom of this one, we've got the upgrade specification. So it reminds you, do you want to upgrade the frame? Do you want to upgrade the locking? Do you want to upgrade the glass? Just reminds you to tick and mention things. Here is for soundproofing, which was one of the customers' issues with those 3 dogs kicking off in the competition. Then if you have laminated glass on the outside, 4mm on the inside, it's actually, if you want to prove it, it's 57% more soundproof than single glazing. Normal double glazing is only 20% more soundproof than single glazing. It's 3 times more soundproof to have laminated on 4mm. And there's the proof. Golden rule number 6, replace we with you. It's natural to we on a customer. What I mean by we on a customer is saying we do this, we do that, we do this, we do it this way, we do this, we. It's competition-phobic language. It implies others do something different. It encourages them to get more quotes, and it's selling. Customers don't like selling. Love to buy, hate being sold to. You change we for you. You can do it this way. Your choices are this. What Adrian says, right, with your back door, you've got 3 choices. You can either have a tilt and turn, you can have a normal casement door like it is now, or you can even have a stable door where the top opens. Go, oh yeah, never thought of that, the customer's saying. What do you think? I've seen those. So you're just showing them things that nobody else has, and you're hewing on them instead of weighing on them. And that goes all the way through the presentation. Now, from now on, you're going to catch yourself weighing on customers. Try and resist the temptation. It's self-interested language. You've got to talk what's in it for them. It makes all the difference in the world. To get your conversion from 50 or 60% up to 70 or 80%, apart from speaking Geordie, you have to be able to hew on them. It's mandatory. If everything else was perfect and you weigh on them, it's not going to work as well. That's what I mean by hewing on them. So you're saying, right, you've got 2 choices. What's your preference? Gold rule number 7 is soften questions and soften your closes. For example, one of the most powerful questions you can ask, which very few salespeople ask, would you believe? Only 2 of them did on the show. What got you thinking about the idea of changing the windows and the door? Now, what I learned was when I used to say, why are you changing the windows and the door? I would get a defensive answer sometimes. It was too hard a question. Why are you changing the windows and door? We're not changing, we're just getting prices at this stage. Don't think we're a raving punter, is what they're thinking. Don't assume we are definitely changing, yeah? So I softened it to, do you mind if I ask what got you thinking about the idea of changing the door and windows? And they say, oh, well, we're thinking about it because, boom, and it just stops that friction. Yeah? When asking for the order, sometimes you're talking price options in step 4, you're discussing price options. I think we'll just pay the extra dear and go for that, do you? Oh, I think so. And you can see they're sold. Well, you might want to ask for the order or just ask if they want to go ahead. So what I've found to soften it is just to put happy in a couple of times and use nice soft words. So I'll say, so look, in that case, if you're happy to go ahead, save messing about, I'm more than happy to sort the paperwork out for you. Or would you rather send the quote and then just get back to us? It's up to you. And say, oh no, I think, well, see what I mean? It's rather than just saying, well, look, do you want to sign now? Sign now? Whoa, whoa. So words not to use are contract, sign, etc. Good words are go ahead, happy, if you want to progress, and so on. So the rule is use good language. So those are the 7 golden rules. Quickly said, slowly learnt. Jim Rohn, an American business philosopher, said a lot of things. But one of the things he said was, modify your dreams or magnify your skills. He also used to say, if you want a different result, you've got to do something different. If you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, they'll come and lock you up. Different results require doing something different. So I've shared with you what I think are the 7 most powerful things you can do to sell your socks off. And when you sell your socks off, life changes, would you believe? Money changes, everything changes. Darwin nailed it when he says it's not the strongest in the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but those most adaptable to change. And what we're talking about doing is changing to the customer, to suit the customer. Good luck.